Hello, everyone. Richard Carlton here. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. We've been quizzing people who are here who took our certification testing material. And actually, if you think about me pushing you to learn, think about the stuff you've actually learned about the platform and how much more you know. Even though we weren't really focused on that, think about all that you've learned. And you've actually, I guarantee Larry has learned quite a bit. And so we were quizzing Larry on extended privileges. You got to be able to name them off the top of your head. Bam, 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 bam. So anyway, we had a lot of good comments. We had a good comment from Ara, who thought I was like the Yoda, trying to help people to be not. Don't stick your lightsaber in your head as you're a Jedi training, right? Right to the forehead, right? Not good. So we were quizzing Larry. He didn't do too bad, but it has to be a little bit better. So anyways, we're prepping people. People are taking the certification test. We will be giving these people a patch that says they are FileMaker certified. It's professionally stitched. Looks all real nice. It's not this logo. It's our fmtraining.tv logo. They will be getting that. Now, let's cover real quick the upcoming broadcast schedule. Margaret, can you help us with the broadcast schedule a little bit? Bring it up.
I can. Let me open that up real quick for people. Okay, so.
I think I'm doing some of it next week, right?
Yep, you're going to be involved in a lot of it. So today we've got, of course, the wonderful Kyle Williams. On Monday, we have a Coach's Corner, Past to Do, Found Sets in FileMaker, specifically installing it into FMSP. We're going to be kind of running a series where we have our coaches pop in and show you how to install all sorts of fun things into FMSP that you decide or your customers decide that they need. Tuesday is going to be the FMSP beta pre-release.
Kyle Williams, are you ready to go? Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Margaret, ready with the tranquilizer dart. Okay, be ready. Okay, and we're requesting that you go no faster than 18 miles an hour today, Kyle. You understand?
I'll try to keep it under 18. Is that kilometers per hour or miles per hour?
No, it's miles per hour. I'm pretty sure that's an American. Hey, that's an American speed sign.
Welcome back, everyone. So today we're going to continue our discussion of JavaScript and how to integrate that into FileMaker. Let's see, I gotta share the screen here. Share. Okay. So today I wanted to start by going back into the script here. I did add a few things here this morning, so I will be sharing another version of this file after we're done covering everything. And let me move that out of the way. Okay, so yesterday we covered, we had a little custom formula here to convert our formula into something we can use in a set variable. We also covered how to create JavaScript objects, JavaScript arrays. So I wanted to kind of go through this a little bit further. In JavaScript, we have buttons. We can declare a button. Button can have a class. And in here, we can have an OnClick. So OnClick, what that means is in here, when a HTML element is clicked, then it'll perform a script. So OnClick is our trigger, and these are our event triggers. There's over 100 of them, so I didn't put them all here. But here, when somebody clicks on a button, it performs a script. Save, and then it has a parameter. So I just wanted to kind of list some of the more useful ones. I'll let you go through that in your own time. There's a lot there. I think OnClick and OnInput, OnChange are probably the most useful ones. I didn't point out yesterday that I put a bunch of links in here. So there's W3 Schools, great place to learn more about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then there's a link here for understanding the difference between 1 equal symbol, 2 equal symbol, or 3 equal symbols. There's a link there that'll help explain that. So there's different levels of equals to. So 1 equals declare a variable with a value. So 2, here, let's just go to this. It'll help to actually see something. Okay, so here it kind of explains the differences between these symbols. So the double equals is a comparison operator, and it compares the left side and the right side, and does it equal, is it the same so I think this can compare a string to a number. So string with a number. So it kind of explains it right here. The triple equals, that is like it's exactly equal to. So there's no difference whatsoever. This is a little less strict on what equals what. So definitely suggest looking through here and understanding what each of these mean, each of the operators. So that, again, there's a lot of helpful links in here. I don't have time to go through all of this today, but so also understanding if-else if in JavaScript. There's a little link there to explain that. So this can be kind of confusing. There's 3 different variable types in JavaScript. You have a var, a let, and a const. And so I put a little explanation here of each one. So a var, this is basically a variable that doesn't have any rules. It can either be global or local, depending on where you put it in your JavaScript. So if it's at the very top of your script, before any functions are declared, then it's going to be global. It can be used in any of the functions. If it's declared within your function, then it's only going to be local to that function. So a let is very similar, but it has some rules. So to use a let, it only works within a block scope, they call it. So in between curly brackets, that's where your variable will have the value you want. So if you declare global at the top and then you change the variable within your curly braces, it can have a new value. Once you end that block, it's going to revert back to the previous value. So one variable could have multiple values. It's kind of confusing, but that's kind of the let statement. And I put a link here that will help you better understand it. It's got some good examples. So let's go ahead and look at that real quick. It's easier to be able to have a visual representation of what's going on. So this kind of explains it. Says the history of the var, because var is the oldest type of variable. So it talks about global variables declared outside of the function. So we have a variable here, which is declared before the function. So variable greeter equals hey, hi, and then function, new function, variable equals hello. So this is the scope right here. So if this was let, it would have this value here, and it would have the same value after the function. But within the function, it's going to be redefined. So if this said var greeter, or let greeter, then, so I'm getting away from myself here. Okay, so it's kind of confusing because this wasn't the example I thought I was looking at. So var greeter equals hey, hi. And then they were saying another variable here. So it gets a little more clear down below here. Let's go ahead and jump down to the let. So it also talks about the problem with var and why you should change to using the let. So greeter equals hey, hi, so times 4 times. So times equals 4. If times is greater than 3, then go ahead and change it. Say hello instead. So with var, it's going to equal the same thing. Or well, it's going to equal this before, and because it changes here, it's going to say that new value. If you use a let, then it's going to revert back to this afterwards. So that's kind of the difference between let. So here it just kind of explains that it's block scoped, and then it does an example, let greeting. So again, this is global up here, and then down here, so it's looking at times as 4 is greater than 3, so it's going to change. Oh, that just says hello. Okay. Oh yeah, okay. So let right here. So this shows that it's local only within this block. So that's what they're explaining here. So let hello equals say hello instead. So right here, if you were to do a console log, or you can do an alert, so you can actually see a pop-up message, and then it'll say hello here instead. But the moment you come out here, it's going to it says it's undefined because it wasn't defined out here. So just trying to think of a better example here. Different scopes. There's what I was looking for. Okay, so here they use let greeting outside of it, and then they have the greeting inside of it again with let, with the new value. And then when you get outside of the curly brace, it reverts back to say hi. So, so that's kind of how let works. It's a little confusing, but that's how that works. And then const, once you declare it, you cannot redeclare it. So it's constant. So once you set it, you can't change it, or it'll produce an error. So yeah, I definitely recommend reading through this. I put all the links in here so you can look through it. So JavaScript for buttons. So this is just basically a template. So if you have a button and you want to give that save function your JavaScript, you can have that set right here. So here we're getting the values, we're setting it into some JSON. So right here is our JSON object, and then we're adding to that JSON object, and then we're using JSON stringify to convert that JSON object into a string so FileMaker can read it and understand it and parse it out. So kind of another example here, same thing with more values, and this shows the difference between most input types. Anything but a checkbox and radio button, you can use .value. When you get into checkboxes and radio buttons, you have to use .checked in order to get that value, and it'll return true or false. For those of you wondering how I was able to get the inspector to work, you can use the terminal. So you just open up your terminal, and then you take this, and you just basically copy this line right here, which is FileMaker 17 and up. You just copy it, put it in your terminal, and you paste it in there like that, and you hit enter. So I've already got it installed, so I don't need to do that. And I also found a link that you can do this on Windows as well, but it's a little tricky. So there's a link here if you're a Windows user. This could be quite useful. It's a little workaround somebody came up with. So in order to get the inspector to work in Windows, debugging JavaScript, and yeah, it shows a workaround so you can get it to work on Windows. So that could be helpful as well. All right, so now that we've covered all of that, let's get back to where we were yesterday. I remember we got to that. I think we were on this one, and I was kind of showing that you can enter in information here, and when you say register now, it's going to give you all the values. So we got our name, Kyle, and then email, we'll get this value, password 1, password 2. And then, yeah, this is where we added this yesterday. We added the submit option in there to get the value of this button. So I was kind of trying to show you that you can get the value of any object in here. So we got the button text and put it into our JSON. So that's kind of cool. So we can probably continue on. So user login screen. So this one's very similar, and I username missing. Fill out this field. So just at Kyle Williams. So yeah, we can pass the information into as JSON into FileMaker. I did not add the checkbox, so let's go ahead and add the checkbox. Okay, so close, user login, user login screen. And so how do we add the checkbox into our JSON parameter? So we have our checkbox here, input type checkbox, that's our checkbox tag. And so here we can do ID equals CBX, put a little space in there. So each of these different elements is separated by a space in between. So that way we can define the ID, we can define the type of input field. So now we can use this ID to get the data. And so we're just gonna copy and paste this. Okay. So now that we have that, we can say CBX. And remember with checkboxes, you can't do value. It's got to be checked. So checked that, and that'll give us true or false. So down here, we have a number of alerts, and I was kind of showing this yesterday, but we didn't get around to adding a checkbox. So in order to add it to the JSON, all I have to do is hit return, paste that in there. So I copied and pasted the previous line. And here we can say, see, actually we want it to say something we can remember me. Okay, so we'll just come down here and say, remember me, and get rid of the space. Okay, and here, because we have our CBX up here, let's just go ahead and say CBX, change that. So now I have JSON read me, so I understand what that means. Maybe I'll do CBX here. So CBX read me, okay, equals checkbox value, or checkbox checked. And then it's going to pass it into our script, and it'll with our JSON. So let's go save, and we'll run this. And now, so enter my name, we'll mark that, hit OK, and now you can see it added it, CBX remember me, to true. So it's either going to be true or false. So if I select it again, you can see it updated, now it's false. So that's pretty easy to modify that. Yes, so this one's kind of cool. So again, I created an action item here because you can log in or you can sign up, and then there's email and passwords in each of them. So again, if I do Kyle, and I'll just do pass, log in, and then you can see it passes the parameters. So this one again isn't complete. If I do, what was that, email? And then pass, sign up, and it just says sign up. It's like, okay, well, we need to actually make this work. So how do we make that work? Let's go ahead and we'll go into our script, and that is login registration form. Login registration form, and it's going to be here, and at the bottom, here we have our JSON. So basically what we're going to do here is we're just going to take this, I'm going to copy, and then we'll paste it up here. So this is the alert it was giving us before, and it just said sign up. So we're going to remove the alert, and instead we're going to have it populate these values from the fields up above, and then we're going to create our JSON with it, and then pass it to FileMaker. Okay, so how do we get our values? If we go up here, that's kind of complicated. So we have this whole section here where it says login, and there's our whole form for our login form. So we want to concentrate instead down here where we have sign up form. So here we have a field, input type text, email address. We don't have an ID, so let's go ahead and say ID equals sign up email, yes, and then we'll just copy that and input type here, password. So password, and again we're going to want to add it here, and let's see what for 2. So we have our 2 password fields, button field submit. Okay, so we have an OnClick that runs the script, and then in our script we're going to add these other fields. So we have sign up email, sign up password 1 and 2. That looks like it. Okay, so come down here, we got our sign up form. So we got sign up email, so we'll just get rid of ID, and then password 1, or password in that case, and then copy. Something else I want to point out is I only have to do var once, and it kind of just, it'll create variables with all of these. So it'll declare and define them at the same time as it's going through here. You could put var on all of them. That doesn't hurt anything. But okay, so to pass to email. Okay, so email pass, and all we're adding here is one more. So pass to. Okay, so that should work. Save, go back in here, and we'll go over to sign up. And I'm just going to say Kyle email. Email. Okay, pass, and sign up. Okay, something happened. So yeah, this is the inspector that I was talking about, and that's what you use the terminal to get to be able to activate this. This only works on Mac, unfortunately. Type error, sign up email value. Okay. Sign up email. Oh, right there. There's our problem. So I have a space after it. So JavaScript is very case sensitive, and it doesn't like to see little spaces like that. So that's why it didn't work. Okay, so go back into it. Scroll down. Right, there's our space. Okay. Just double checking, looks okay. Okay, so there it is. Okay. So we got email, pass. I'm not sure why it's not showing. It's kind of like it used the login button, didn't it? So that doesn't have anything. Pass, okay. Where are the login credentials stored when you use remember me? Oh, that must have been from earlier. Yeah, there's no remember me on this one. So for some reason, I'm only getting email and email password. So if I go back into this, scroll back down. Oh, that's why it's overriding it too. Or password 2. So just like in FileMaker, if you define the same element twice, it's just going to overwrite the previous one. Okay. So good things to keep in mind. Or pass 2. So yeah, pass 1, pass 2. So there we got everything working. So now if I want to use that, I can continue that script. So this is one that I created, and so you can have 2 web viewers on the same layout, and you can have one web viewer with your widget, and then you can have a second web viewer just below it, and that second web viewer can have these buttons. So you can say, you can use JSON as a parameter when you're creating this, and it can define all the buttons and the actions that the buttons do. And then when you load it, these buttons will say, okay, it was clicked, whatever the button name was. So as long as all your buttons have different names, you can script that into your script and be able to have actions based on these buttons. So you can use these buttons to get information from the other web viewer. You can perform JavaScript in the other web viewer with your script to get all the data that you need. So that's kind of why I created this. So this is kind of earlier in the week. There was an example, a little demo that was created. I don't know if you can hear this. I'm going to turn this down because it's really loud. So I'm just going to turn that down a little bit. We can shorten the duration. And then when you hit play,
I don't think we can
really
hear
annoying
it
beep.
through
What was
the
it?
thing. I said I don't think we can hear it, unfortunately, through the thing. So,
Oh, you can't hear that?
nope. So all y'all who've downloaded it, try it yourself.
Okay. So yeah, you can play around with that when you get the, well, if you have the file, you can download it. Again, I want to do an update to be able to share this with everyone once we get all of this done and we have all of our new widgets. Because I left a few empty spots here so we can go through these sites and kind of create some brand new widgets. So we'll get to that later. This delete button's kind of cool. because you can hit that and it'll bring up this modal window here. Modal, not model. And then here I got a couple buttons, delete, cancel. So that I've already gotten done for us. Another really simple widget where I'd probably resize this like I showed before. I don't know if, in case some people weren't here to witness how to resize something, we'll just go ahead and we'll resize that. That button. And then we have our JS result. So what we want to do is we want to copy all of this. So I'm just going to copy and then data viewer, watch. I can get rid of all of this because we don't need that. And then paste that in there. Okay, so monitor. Make that a little smaller. Okay, back to our script. And see what we have. Increment button. You want to turn on the debugger so you can get the value from the variable. Then right here, we're going to insert the data into that variable. Okay, and now we have the variable in our data viewer. So here's our variable. And basically, we're converting it from this right here. So this is the way we have it. We're going to convert it from that into this, where it has all the returns in it, everything's here, and now we can use this to modify. So I'm going to select all of that, copy it, and I'm just going to stop the script and close this window here, and we'll bring up the script again. And instead of using the insert text here, we're going to change this into variable HTML, paste all this in here. And for those that weren't here yesterday, I have a special custom function that we can inject right here. And we're just going to put a quote, ampersand, CSS, scale Webviewer, and we want to scale that down to, say, 40%. And then come over here, say, and put our quote. And now we've connected the top and the bottom of this variable and injected this scale Webviewer in the middle. So what this does is it modifies the body. It adds another body element. So if I execute it, so there's our body, and this is what it's adding right here. So it's taking care of different browsers, so different ways to zoom in. And so it's just scaling the web viewer down. So say OK, save, and then if I run it again, it's a little bit smaller. So pretty helpful. So I don't see any questions yet. Is there any on YouTube or Twitch?
Nope. Quick reminder, everyone, to please ask questions. I am watching. So.
Okay. All right. So I haven't integrated this, but it's kind of the same thing. You just go down here. Let's see. We have all of this span wrapper, num plus minus. So we basically want whatever values in this one, and we want to be able to get that out at the end. So this is where I kind of like to work in the insert text. So if I'm going to integrate this, I would come down here, and we want to be able to try to get this value. So you would add an ID. So we'd say ID equals num. Put that in quotes. And again, then we'd come down here, we'd add new function. So the function save, or maybe OnClick. Oh, we have an event listener right here. So we don't need to add that. This is actually a little simpler than I thought. So num enter text equals A. So this is where it's modifying the value. So basically all I have to do is say, let's start with alert. So alert num enter text. So if I were to add that, you always want to put a colon at a semicolon at the end of every line. You'll notice that every one of these lines has a semicolon, and that is required when you're JavaScripting to have that. So here I've just added this line, and let's go ahead and save, run, and then when I click this, it should be giving me the alert. So that's only working with the minus button. So we want it to work both directions. We can go back into here. So we have our alert. So this is why it's really helpful when you're trying to figure this out. You don't really know where to put it because somebody else coded this. So basically, what I can do is I try to copy it. Okay, num dot inner text. Okay, so basically, I would put this at both spots. So here we have the increase, so it's adding. So plus plus means it's adding to the A, and minus minus means it's subtracting one. So it's adding one, it's subtracting one. That's basically what that's doing. And then it's reevaluating here to see if it's below 0. So you can only do positive integers. So that's where that's scripted. If you want to be able to do negative numbers, then you probably disable this line. You get some negative numbers. So it looks like they programmed this to only do positive. And now we have our alerts at both spots. And anywhere where your alert works, where you want it to work, then you can add in all of the JSON and call the script like we've done previously. So now if I run this, it should fire every time I go plus or minus. So now we can keep track of it all. If I wanted to, I can add another button down here so I don't have it calling my script each time I do plus or minus, and I just want the end result. I can add a button to this layout and have a save button on save click, and then it can call the script with the final value. So that's how I would work with that. So this one's kind of fun. So if you ever want to do a typing test in here, it keeps track of your words per minute. This doesn't seem to be updating, but words per minute works. Time left is counting down. Mistakes made 0, so doing pretty good. Then you can do try again to get a different paragraph. So that's kind of a fun little widget. And again, you can do a little save button. I'm not going to go through all of that right now. It's got a lot to get to. Okay, so quote of the day. This is kind of fun. I don't know if you can hear this if I were to say play.
Nope.
But it basically reads all of this text. It's talking to me in my ears. Okay. Yeah, probably can't hear that over the broadcast, but it does read all that text to you, and you can do new quote. So yeah, it's got some fun ones in there. That's kind of a fun one to play around with. And you can copy the text, so it'll copy it to your clipboard. So if I close this and go back into here, so I copied it to the clipboard, and then I can paste it. So that does work. Okay, so save. Okay, that's some right click. This one's kind of fun. So if you ever want to do a right click, I can right click over here at the edge, and you see it branches out to the left. If I right click over here, it goes to the right. So this you can add a bunch of buttons to the different parts. That could be a pretty useful one. Range slider. This one I've already done the JavaScript. I added the save button. So in the original source code, this wasn't here. It didn't have a button. So I can kind of show you how I added a button here, and I was able to capture these values. So 700 to 77500. And it tells you max price, min price. So if I go into here and range slider, okay. And in here, so what I had to do is I had to add this button CSS for my new save button. And then I had to come down here. I had to add this script here. So function save, and then it's getting the values, min price, max price, creating the JSON, stringifying it, passing it into FileMaker. Okay, so price input. So this is kind of where I got the values, is because price input is specified here. And I believe it's global. So if we go up to the top, we have our script, and then we have our global values. So range input's global, price input, range, and then let price gap. That's all going to be global, accessible anywhere. So price input. So price input was right here. And because it's using const here, all of these are constant variables. So this is going to be a const, that's going to be a const. So if I move those over and kind of format it, you can see then they use a let. So this is a different type of variable than the other several. So these are all const variables, and this is a let variable. So again, this is context sensitive. It only works between curly braces, but because it's global, this will work. It'll give this price gap value the value of 1,000, and that's accessible through any of these functions below it. So because this had price input, I was able to utilize that down here for my script. So price input right here, and then I'm looking into the array to get the value because it's all in JSON. So the price inputs are in JSON, and it has two values, 0 and 1. And the 0 value is min price, and then the second value is max price. And basically, I'm just putting it in here. So because it's already JSON, I probably could have just stringified that and got the result here. So maybe I did more work than I needed to, but I was just putting it together. So yeah, right here's my buttons that I had to add. So there's that. So that's how I was able to modify it and get that button in there and get the script behind it all. Custom capture, that was kind of fun. We did this last time. And basically you can randomize it, type stuff in, and then you can press to enter, or you can hit the check button, and it's letting the user know, and then it's also passing that value into FileMaker for us. So pretty useful. So finally, second column. So here, this is pretty useful. A lot of people do data tables. Not many data tables have column filters. Usually you just get this global field up here. So if I were to type in there, it's doing a global search through all of these fields, which is handy. But maybe I don't want to do all the fields. Maybe I want to do, I want to find all the assistants. So sales assistants with the letter S in it. And then I want to find, I don't know, we'll search age 46. So therefore, we can filter each column individually this way. And it's not just one global search that searches everything. So that's really handy. Pricing cards. Okay, so if you wanted to be able to set something up like this, you can modify this. You can change all the text in the HTML. And then it has this, which basically utilizes a radio button. And they just use CSS to redesign the radio button to be able to give it these different buttons up here. And they added some animation. So really cool trick how they did that. And then down here, I modified this button so that it looks at these radio buttons, looks at that dot checked value, and then it's able to return true or false for each of these radio buttons. So basic now equals true, standard equals false, team equals false. If I go over here, it's going to show false, false, true. So again, you can do inspect element. You can kind of see what I was talking about with the radio buttons. So they have different labels on the radio buttons. So here you can see input type radio with this slider. So they named it slider. ID is tab 1, tab 2, tab 3. And then here, label for tab 1, for tab 2, for tab 3. So this is defining the labels for the radio buttons. And then down here, I was able to add this function here for the new button, or well, not new button. They had the button here, and then I just added this OnClick save to their button, and then I added the function here in order to be able to capture the dot checked value of each of those radio buttons, and then put it into JSON here. Surprised team works. That shouldn't work with the space in there. But yeah, team. So it's working. Okay, so close. So accordions are kind of fun. If you ever want to do an accordion, that's pretty handy. I got this from W3, the schools, and all of this you can modify. You can. It is possible to create JSON to be able to dynamically create the different elements on the fly with your script. And again, this is another example of an accordion. So there's different views. And this using a jQuery instead. So it's a jQuery library. You can do all kinds of stuff with jQuery. And this is just demonstrating using that library to create an accordion that has these different actions. So you can see it kind of sliding and opening up as you enter into it. There it slid down and opened it. So it has that animation, which is kind of cool. This folding accordion also has a really cool animation. So as I select this, you can see it kind of folds into itself. So I thought that was really cool. JS quiz, start quiz. So I really like this. I thought about making this into a FileMaker certification quiz. So you can put rules in here, explain that you have so many seconds to answer each question. Once you select your answer, it can't be undone. So just kind of, it's a disclaimer that they put together. And then you say continue, and then it's like, what does HTML stand for? Hypertext Markup Language. And then you say next, and cascading style sheet, next. Hypertext preprocessor, structured query language, XML extensible markup language. So there we go. We got 5 out of 5. So if I were to redo this, say I got one wrong, it'll show you the correct answer, and it'll show you the answer that you did and the correct answer, so that we can see where you messed up. So colorful style sheet. So nope, it's actually cascading style sheet. So yeah. We can go ahead and close that, but that's kind of fun. You can customize that, make your own quiz. I thought that was going to be a really cool one. Are there any questions? I realize I'm kind of going a little quick here, and I got to keep it under 18 miles an hour and all. So,
I don't see any questions yet. I don't know if people are just asleep because it's Friday or what.
yeah, it is Friday. And
assume
this
you
is a lot of
answered Lynn,
content. It's a
right?
lot to
Like,
learn. It's a lot to absorb. So I'm kind of just going through some of these to show you how they work. If anybody wants me to go in and explain how
it did
to
not get
integrate
answered.
this a little more.
My God. Sorry, Lynn.
It might get answered.
Lynn, where are the login
So-
credentials stored when you use Remember Me?
Oh, login credentials. Okay. Let's go back to that. I believe that was, no, not that form.
It's one above that, I think. Yeah.
So
no,
right here,
I think he's talking about the Remember Me specifically. So was that the middle one? There you go. There you go. That's it.
yeah, this one also has the Remember Me. So if I were to see if I can type password. So basically what we're doing here, it stores this value. It's a checkbox. It's inside the JavaScript, inside the HTML, and we're pulling it out with the JavaScript to get the current value. So currently when you select this, it turns to true. If you deselect it, it turns to false. And it's going to return this true or false result here. So CBX Remember Me, true. So it's where the login credentials stored when you use it. It's so when you use it, it's just a checkbox like any other checkbox in your web form. And when you let me go into inspect element. I think maybe that'll clear it up. So inspect element, we have the checkbox here. Remember Me. Trying to see if I move this over. Type checkbox. See div input. Okay, so I was hoping it would actually show the current status, because sometimes with checkboxes it'll actually update it as you update it on the form, and it'll say value equals checked or value equals unchecked. But it doesn't have the value element, I think. So maybe we have to do value equals and then what it equals, and then it'll append it or something. I'm not sure why it's not showing it. But yes, so basically when you checked it, it's going to change the status of this checkbox. And then when you say login, it's going to pass this to FileMaker, and then you can store all this data however you want using your script. So Mark was saying, I don't think it's scripted in that code, but usually the developer will create it as a cookie in your temp folder. Okay. Yeah, he's trying to kind of answer Lynn's question. Okay, so moving on.
We got another quick question, actually, so sorry.
Oh, sure.
Easy interface to build in Q&A for quiz? Question mark.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so if we want to go a little deeper into the quiz, so let's go into inspect element. Move this over here. So we can kind of see how this is built. I can go into sources. So we have all the CSS at the top. So the part we'd want to modify, if we scroll down, we can see here we have our different divs. So div is a section of objects within our HTML. So we have divs inside of divs. This is basically our structure. So we have our div info box going down to the end div here. So class, you will have so many seconds. So if I click on this, you can see where it's getting its data from. So this is where you would modify it in your HTML. So we have span 15 seconds. So that's this span right here. That's why it's a different color. It's because they wanted to use a class on it to be able to color it. So you will have only, and then this span is colored differently. So there's CSS for the span somewhere down there. And then end div. And then we have our next div. So each one of these lines is a separate div. So this sentence here is one div. The sentence here is another div, and so on. So we have all of our 5 divs here, 1 through 5. So this being our number 1, number 2, number 3, and so on. So if you wanted to modify any of this, you can just simply modify this text, and it'll change it the way it appears on this layout. Here's our button. So we have exit quiz. That's this text right here. So if you wanted to customize that, change it to something else, that's where you change it. If you wanted to modify the way it looks, the class equals quit. So if you scroll up, there's a class here somewhere that says quit. And it's looking at that CSS. And it's going to say, just like this, it's going to say dot quit somewhere up there. So that's where you'd want to change the CSS. Let's see, where were we? And then restart. Actually shows continue. So, classes restart. There's our text. Okay, so to edit the CSS for the continue button, you'd want to find the class in the CSS. It says dot restart somewhere up there. And then quiz box. So if I continue into this, it's got the timer up here, quiz box. Awesome quiz application. You can see that text there. It's right here. Our time left starts at 15 seconds. JavaScript is updating this as we're waiting. So JavaScript's running in the background. And when it times out, it tells us the correct answer. So I guess that I didn't show earlier. Question I've answered here from JavaScript. So the different sections. So all of the questions and answers are down here in the JavaScript. So right here is our script tag. And then here's where you can customize all the questions and answers. So that's your Q&A. So you have all of your different options the user can select from. You have your question and your answer. So this is your correct answer. Question, answer. Here's your options for the answers for the user. And then the next question, number 2. So questions in order. You can see all the questions, all the answers right there. So again, you'll see const, let, and var, different variable types.
Okay.
So
and then we have one
I
more
think
question,
that answers that.
And then I think I'm gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
Skinko, isn't it just giving you? I asked you this already, but I'll ask you again. Skinko said, isn't it just giving you the data and you have to then save it to FMP or some other place? Problem is, I don't know what data he's referring to.
Yeah. So the whole idea here is we're creating widgets like this. We're able to start it. We go through it. At the end, we're able to save the result. After we finish the quiz, we want to be able to, at the end, have it perform a script in FileMaker with a parameter with the results from that quiz. So all of these, we're loading, and we're able to call FileMaker with a script with a parameter, and the parameter is going to be in JSON format, and we can parse this out in FileMaker to have it do whatever we want it to do in our scripts. Yeah.
Okay, otherwise, then I think we're good. So we still got all of this to cover for our next day.
Yeah, so I think the next one we'll cover right here, and then we'll come back for our final day. So we'll come back for day 4 and cover this section here. So we really want some time to go through the canvas, the image cropper, and these games are kind of fun to go through too. So we'll cover the stopwatch down. We'll add a few new ones here that aren't created yet. So we'll show you how to do that from start to finish using these source code websites. And we can even play around with this little widget here too.
The data
so show you how that works.
Was specifically about apparently the remember me. He was asking about when you hit remember me, isn't it just giving you the data and then you have to save it at FMP or some other place? So that was...
Oh, yeah. So it's all in FileMaker. Everything's inside of FileMaker, and it's in a Webviewer within FileMaker. And so the user fills out the form, and then they click save or login or whatever it is. That button will then call FileMaker with the script parameter, and then your script in FileMaker can process that data, create whatever records it needs to with that data, and then do whatever we want it to do.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Kyle. I'm looking forward to having you back again. For probably not next week, but the week after next week. So then we'll continue with all the widgets of wonder. So
awesome.
Thank you very much. You all have a lovely day and a lovely weekend. We will see you Monday. Bye-bye.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!